So what are we going to do today? So the main topic of today is going to be about finding the area of triangles. And so before we have a go at this question, can anybody tell me what the formula for the area of a triangle is? So we're going to ignore the question for now. What is a formula? Does anybody know a formula for the area of a triangle? And if you do, could you come online quickly and just tell us or put it in the chat? So what have you learned about in grade 9 or 10 to find the area of a triangle? Okay, so I'm going to unmute Siyabonga. Siyabonga, what can you tell us about the area of a triangle?
I think the area of a triangle is half base times height.
Okay, fantastic. Indeed. It's half base times height, and where the height is always measured perpendicular to the base. Thank you, Siyabonga. That was awesome. So using Siyabonga's tip, can you please try and find me the area of this? You're given four choices, and there's a triangle there. What is the area of that triangle? I want you to try and work out for me, what's the area of that triangle? And then when you know, choose the option that you think is correct, A, B, C, or D. Okay, so a couple of answers are coming through. So think about how would you use the formula that has been described, and it's correct. The normal formula for the area of a triangle in grade 9 and 10 is a half base times height. I suppose you have to find the base and the height to help you. And so let's start with that. So there's a couple of different answers coming through. That's what I love about the internet. So what I am going to say to you is I think this is a right angle. And so I think the base and the height are always going to be where the right angle happens. And so I'm going to say that this length over here is 2. And I'm going to say, if I count the blocks, the length over here is 3. Now, maybe that can help you get your answer for the question. See if you want to change your answer. So I suppose I could use either of those as my base and my height. But the important bit is that my base and height is going to be these two. And so I think it's going to be a half times 2 times 3. And what's that going to give me? Well, 2 times 3 is 6. A half times 6 is 3. So the correct answer is going to be A. Okay, so give me a thumbs up if you understand how I got my answer there, because the whole lesson is based around area. And so the area of a triangle formula from grade 9 and 10, we have to check that we're good. So give me a thumbs up if you feel good on that one. Okay, keep those thumbs coming. I love to see my students. I'm going to need to make sure everybody knows where the thumbs up or thumbs down is, because we often vote. Okay, now I want to, so how did you get 3 blocks for the top? So I just counted. So if I look at each of these blocks is 1, so I just counted, that's the first block, that's the second block, that's the third. So it's 3. And then over here was 2. Okay, now here's the thing. Siyabonga gave me the correct formula, but now there are some triangles in life that are a little bit more difficult to work with. Now, I want to ask you, if I said to you, determine the area of this triangle over here. I'm going to quickly switch the modes. I want us to look at that. And I want to look at it, and I want to ask you, could we find the area of this triangle? And if we could, how would we do it? Or if we're stuck, what's making us stuck? So I suppose I've used a lot of words there, but I'd love someone to come online and tell me, why is this harder or why is this different to the last question? Who's feeling brave enough? I'd love to hear your voice. Like, what's different compared to the last one? Or you can pop it in the chat. Because This is the question for today. How do we find the area of a triangle that looks like this, given this information? And I don't think in grade 9 or 10, we have a tool that can help us. So would anybody like to tell me why it's harder? Why is this so much harder than the last one? Can we use the formula area is a half base times height here? Can we use that formula? Aha, so Dineo has said it doesn't have the height. Can everyone see that? It almost looks like we have a side, and then we have another side, and then we have the angle in between. But the problem is we don't have any 90-degree, we don't have a 90-degree angle. Or even if it wasn't, we don't have the height. Like the height of the triangle would be, we have seen things like this in grade 9 and 10, but normally they would give us the height of the triangle. And we'd go a half 6 times whatever the height was, and they would give us the height. Okay, so that's the problem. Now, the good news, guys, is I'm going to show you some magic. There is a formula for the area of a triangle that you can use in the scenario, and you can use trigonometry. And so the way the formula works is you go a half, and you take the product of one side. So you go a half times 5, then you go times 6. So you times the two sides, and then you times the sine of the angle in between those two sides. Okay, so that's a little bit strange. So let me just focus it again. I'm telling you, and I'm just telling you this on kind of that because I'm a math teacher and I know it, that the area of any triangle can be found if you have two sides and the angle in between them. And the formula you use is you go a half times one side times the other times the sine of the angle in between. Now I want you to work out what that amount is with your calculator. And I want you to put it in the chat. So go a half times 5 times 6 times sine and see what you get. Let's see if we get the same thing. Yes. So I see a couple of people, we get 14.67. And because we would normally put unit squared or centimeter squared. And guys, the formula is true and it works perfectly. But just to show you how sneaky clever this is, let's see if this formula will work on the first triangle we did today. Because if this is meant to work, it should work for all triangles. So let's just quickly reverse for a second. And we know the answer to this question. And so if I was to work out the area of this one over here, I think I would say, using this new rule, I would go a half times 2 times 3 times the sine of 90. Now, what I want you to do, guys, is I want you to type that in your calculator and see what you get for the area. And I'm holding thumbs that you get the same answer. Otherwise, I can't be telling you the truth. So let's see what happens. Okay, Siyabonga, that is a great question. So Siyabonga's asked, why are we using sine? I'm going to show you a little bit later in the lesson, but for now, can we just take it on faith that we're using sine? Because we're just learning the process. So guys, can you see the miraculous truth is that this rule works not just for ones that are right angled, it works for all types of triangles. And so that's the main new idea I want you to learn today, is that you can find the area of any triangle if you have two sides and the angle between them. Okay, so now to answer the question of why this works, what magic is happening. So I'm not going to give you a full proof here, but basically what happens, guys, is that this formula finds the height of the triangle. So you know in this very first one, if you imagine we had to find the height, we can find the height of the triangle using trigonometry. And so what this formula is doing is it's essentially using trigonometry to find the height. And then it's basically causing, it's figuring out the area by going 6 times the height, or half times 6 times the height of the triangle. But I'm rather going to today just practice the skill, but basically a half, yeah, essentially we're going to basically gobble up these things over here, and they're going to be involved in the calculation. Okay, let's see how this works in practice. I'm going to give you this triangle, and notice there is no 90-degree angle involved. I want you to try and use what you saw in the first part of the lesson to find the area. Over to you guys. And then Amokilani, I was about to say, if anybody wants to ask questions, go ahead. We're going to unmute you. How's it going, man?
It's going okay, so can you hear
How
me?
can I help?
So can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. So I wanted to ask, are we using sine because it's opposite over hypotenuse? Is that why we're
Yes.
using sine?
We are, but
Okay.
basically for now we're using sine because, yes, because I'm not going to go into detail, but basically if I wanted the height of this triangle, okay, I would be using the O and the H, and that's kind of where it's coming from. But for now, we're just learning how to use it. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So we go a half times 6 times 7 times the sine of 60 is what you should have got. And I'm just going to type this into my calculator. Half times 6 times 7 times the sine of 60. And you should get 18.19 if you round off to 2 decimal places. And that will be centimeters squared. Okay, but those who got 18.18, I know you just rounded down instead of up. Okay, Amukulani, go ahead. What's your question?
I think the hand wasn't.
Okay, no problem. All right, let's move on to the next one. Unless there's any question. That was really great, guys. You've got this. So the goal today is just to get this new skill in our toolkit. So let's try and do this one. Find the area of this triangle over here. And the skill I'm teaching you is called the area rule. Okay. A student has asked if I can go back to the previous one. Let me just zoom out a bit. That maybe helps a little bit. Cool. Pleasure. So once you've got the area for this one, you can just, okay, so you are indeed using sine, because in order to find the area of this triangle, you're going to have to use this, and I'm going to write down the formula now in a moment. Okay, so how do we find the area of this over here? We go a half, and we go the length of one side. So let's go, we're going to say 8. And then we're going to say times 10, which is this one over here, times the sine of the angle in between, the sine of 79. If we do that, we should get 0.5 times 8 times 10 times the sine of 79. And we get 39.27 centimeters squared. That's it. So let's write down what this rule says in more general notation. And let's talk about a general triangle. So the most general triangle that we can get would look like something like this, right? So take a moment to look at my blue triangle. And what the new rule says, it says the following. If I want to find the area of this triangle, I can actually do it in a couple of ways. The first one I'm going to do it is I'm going to focus on that side there, which is called A, and I'm going to focus on this side B over here, which is over here. And what the law says, it says if you take one side, so you go 1/2 times A times B times the sine of big C, and C is the angle in between those two. And this is called the area rule. And it allows you to find any area, the area of any triangle. Now, what's clever about this is we are finding the height of the triangle using trigonometry. And so that's where two of the pieces, like over here, this and this together, and I'll show you this in a later example, that's basically finding the height. And then the first part goes 1/2 times the base, which is the A, times the height. Okay, so you can see it's related to that original formula. Now, what I want you to do is, well, in fact, I'll show this to you. What if I wanted to use, instead of using this and this, I wanted to use the green and the turquoise. In that case, the area could be written as 1/2 times B times C. And what would the sine of what angle would be involved? I want you to tell me in the chat, what is the angle that I'm going to write here in my formula at the end? So if I went 1/2 B times C, what is the angle going to have to be in between? Would you agree with me? It's going to be this one over here, and it's going to be that. So that works. This formula works either way. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you understand how to use, this is called the area rule for a triangle. And I just want to check, do you understand how to use it? Thumbs up. If you're unsure, thumbs down. I just want to get a quick feel. Okay. So that's the goal for today, just learning how to find the area of any triangle. And if you need to take a screenshot now. Okay, and let me go. So this is a little bit harder. The numbers are going to be a little bit trickier, but the idea will be the same. I'm giving you a triangle PQR, and I want you to find me the area of this triangle, and then I want you to select the correct answer over here. And then if any student is feeling brave enough, I would love for you to tell me how you did it. Just pop your hand up and you can tell us through the process. Okay, so I see lots of students are getting A. And I get A as well. Now, let me, that is perfect, guys. Well done. It is A. Now, I just want to take this opportunity to show you the magic behind the area rule, because so far I've kind of been holding back as to why this works. So imagine if you wanted to find the area of this triangle from grade 9 or grade 10. you'd normally need to know what this height is over here. Okay, you'd go a half times 18.1 times that height. Now you can use trigonometry to say, isn't the sine of 51 equal to, in this case, h, so over 21.2? So just take a moment to think about that. So if this was a right angled triangle, if you found the opposite would be little h, and then big H would be 21.2, what you would find is that if you brought the 21.2 across, you get 21.2 times the sine of 51 is equal to h. Now, if you look at my formula, do you see 21.2 in the sine of 51? So there's the 21.2, and there's the sine of 51. And so those two parts are your height. And then the base of your triangle was the 18.1, and then the half over here in front. So all that the area rule is doing is it's finding you the height of the triangle in a very easy, predictable way. Okay. So some of you may not exactly get that, and that's fine. The main thing is, can you use the rule to find the area? But I just wanted to show you how the magic of the thing is working. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you're feeling okay. Give me a thumbs down if you're feeling like the pace is a bit quick. I want to get a feel for everyone. Okay, awesome. Then I'm going to keep throwing them at you. Great. Okay. A little bit trickier. Can you do this one? I'm not going to say anything now. It's time to fly solo. And I would love a student to come online and explain this one to me. So if you're willing to explain it to me, please put your hand up now and you'll get lots of bonus points. So Lee's locked in the answer. There's a little bit of a sneaky distraction in this one, but I think most of you haven't got caught by the distraction. So, okay, clearly you guys have figured this out. So the 42 doesn't really have much to do with anything. You go a half times 12 times 9 times the sine of 75, and you should get 9 times the sine. Yeah, and you get A as your answer. Okay, you guys are doing you're doing really well. So we're just going to keep going because you're doing so well. But do raise your hand if you have a question. Okay. And then take a screenshot if you need to. Oh, that's too easy. I feel like you guys will get that one. So let's. Okay. So this is going to cause a bit of stress, but it's our last question before the break. And then we're going to have a brain break. So I want you to look at this question and just slow down for a second. So Nate, I think I see your question. Okay, I'll come back to you in a moment. So everyone just take a screenshot if you need to. I'm just going to zoom up. So Nate, I think what happened was in the previous question, you focused on this and you needed to focus on this angle over here. Okay, I think that's what happened. But you can look at the recording. Okay, so you're given this triangle and I'm going to keep quiet now and I'm going to let you use your brains. And then, yeah, if anybody has a question, pop your hand up. Or I would love for someone to tell me, where would I start for this question? What would be the first thing what would be lovely to have? If only I had something. What is that something? Who can help us? Nolotando, let's ask you. What do you think would be super helpful in this question, Nolotando?
Hi, sir. I
Hey,
think it would be helpful to find the angle
yes.
between the 14 and the 26.
Why would that be so helpful?
Because it is the angle, to get the area, you need the angle between the two sides.
Perfect. You are winning at life. Do you know what that angle is yet?
Yes, it is 84.
How did you work it out?
Interior angles of a triangle, 180 minus 72 minus 24.
You use the fact that all triangles add up to 180. I think that will be
Yes,
very
sir.
helpful to students. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Okay, now, given that very useful bit of information, what do we think the answer is going to be for this? Which of the 4 options? Oh, now I think after that little bit of help, I think the answers are flooding in. So we start to see the area of this triangle is a half times 14 times 26 times the sine of 84. And obviously the multiplication can be in any order, but you do see that D is the answer. Guys, you've done really well. Oh my goodness. You've been really doing well at this. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a little break. And so I want everybody to stand up for a second. And I just want you to do your favorite stretch. And I'm going to join you. And we just need a break because we've been working hard. So I'm going to put some light on. And I find when I'm sitting at my table for a lot, I need to do a calf stretch. So that's what I'm going to do. And you can choose your favorite, but we'd love to see you stretching with us. And Lebo, if you could tell me the person who's showing the best stretching form, well, that would be an extra bonus.
Imtiaz is getting in
Oh,
there,
yes.
like really getting there. And
Imtiaz looks like
Siabonga,
some real
Zoom users always in there,
subtlety.
also in there.
I wish I could be as supple as that. I
Sam
like to
is also doing a great stretch there.
too.
And Refilwe,
Oh, there we go.
yes,
That's
more
quality.
students coming on. Carabello, very
There we
great,
go.
guys. Give that body a stretch.
Body needs a break, man. Like we just did half an hour of maths, chop chop. And so the body
Definitely.
appreciates a nice bit of a break.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
Imtiaz is like getting in there. He's like doing jumping jacks now.
Okay. Like Imtiaz
Nice
is
one,
most
guys.
likely to be a talented Virgin Active instructor by far. That is
Yes.
fantastic.
He probably plays sports.
All right, fantastic, guys. Thank you for participating with us. We know that it helps your learning, and it's really fun to do together. So we're going to do a brain break now, which is a little tradition we've had going for a while. And so here's my puzzle for the day. If you want to give us hints along the way, that's fine. But what I'm really interested is, what is a lemon plus a watermelon plus a peach? And I want you to try and figure that out for me. Okay. Okay, Rafiwe, I think you're onto something. The first thing that's easiest to find is the green apple. What else can we work out still? This is a bit trickier than red apple is 1. Okay. I agree. And that's really helpful. If the red apple is 1, can that not help us with some other stuff? I think once we know what the red apple is, then we know that the lemon must be 5. And now it's time for watermelons and peaches. Oh yes, you guys are okay. So we're getting close. Remember, we want to get to the final answer. I agree that a watermelon should be 7, which means a peach or orange should be that should be a 2. So what's my final answer going to be? I'm waiting for that now. Okay, keep them coming. The Sejo, there we go. It's 5 and there's a 7 and a 2. And that is going to give us 14. Okay, so that was quite a long brain break today. But what's useful is it's building our powers of deduction. And so I see pretty much who was the first person to get it. It seems like Fuzlin was the first person, or Amokalani. But you are all winning at life because you have had the experience. Okay, let's get back to what we were doing. So we were mastering this thing. Oh, I've made my OneNote a bit upset with me. Oh, it just will not go away. I want you, ignore the huge circle in the middle of the question, but can you help me find, it's going to take a while. Can you help me find the area of this triangle? Maybe I can select it and just bring it out a little bit. Okay, over to you guys. Find me the area of this triangle. And let's see what you get. Remember, we have a rule called the area rule for triangles, and that's the new skill we've learned today. Then once you found your answer, just pop it in the chat. Yeah. I feel like I thought maybe some of you would get distracted by this, but it turns out you guys are laser focused. And so the correct answer is going to be 44.23 meters squared. So can you see how I'm adding a little bit more difficulty on every question? Like there's more stuff where you have to ignore. But essentially, as long as you stay laser focused on its 2 sides and the angle in between those 2 sides, and you know how to write down your formula, you're good to go. Okay, so the answer is 44.23. And so since you're going perfectly well, I'm going to move on. That one is too easy, so we're not going to worry about that. Okay, let's just talk about the fancy way of writing this. So I did this a bit earlier in the lesson, but the fancy way of saying the area rule is the area of any triangle ABC is half the product of 2 sides and the sine of the included angle. And so that is the fancy way of writing the area rule, but you know it from just visually seeing it. You know, it could be this side times this side times the angle, the sine of the angle in between those 2 sides. That's really what you need to know. Langalipe, do you want to have a look at the answer for the previous question? Let's have a look at that. So you should have got a half, and then you should have gone 12. Let's have a look. So you should have, here's the 12 over here, and here is the 8, or sorry, here's the 9. So 12 and 9, the half in front, and then the angle in between those two sides. So maybe you just made a calculator error. Okay. So, okay, a little bit trickier now, although not really scary. I want you to find me the area of this triangle. And I'm going to let you do the whole thing. However, if somebody wants to come online and give us a hint, that would be awesome. I'd love to get a hint from the class. Maybe you can help us all out. Who has raised their hand there? Teddy. Teddy, can you help us with this question? What would be helpful to figure out here?
Okay, so good evening, sir.
Hey, hey.
Okay, first of all, we see that AB is equal to AC. So that's the first
Okay.
hint. And then
Okay, so
obviously,
are you saying that that's going to be 7?
yeah.
Okay. I agree with you.
Obviously angle C will be also
Yes.
50 degrees.
Okay. I'm going to pause there, Teddy. You've given us a very big hint. So thank you very much for that. That is hugely helpful.
Pleasure, sir.
I'm going to wait a little bit to see who else if we can get the right answers coming up here. Would anybody else like to finish it off for us? What are the final steps that I need to do? Who would like to raise their hand and help us through the last step? Okay, Lee, let's go to you. Lee, how would you finish?
Hello, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. So what we need to do now is we need to find the total angle size.
Yes.
Because interior angles equals to 180. So if you minus 180 minus 50 minus 50, we're left at 80. So A is 80 degrees.
Perfect. And then the final step?
And the final step, it's a half times 7 times 7 times sine 80, which gives us 24.13 or 127.
Okay, let me just quickly check that, but it looks good to me. 0.5 times 7 times 7 times the sine of 80. 0.5 times 7 times 7. And what I get is 24.13, and that would be units squared. Guys, what I want to point out is that there were some steps along the way. And so we would, even though the answer is 24.13 centimeters squared, we would also have to say, like the little steps we did, like AC is 7. And the reason is that you were given in the question that I had to say sides opposite. No, it was actually given. So that was actually given to you, that these two were equal. And then you would also then have to work out what the angle is. So C was 50, and that was because of angles opposite equal sides. And then to find the angle A, it would be 80, and that is the sum of angles in a triangle. Now, do I have to obsess about the reasons? No, but if the mark allocation is such that it is important that you realize whenever you make a deduction, you should provide a reason. And so I just want to keep reinforcing these reasons and getting used to writing a fact, writing a reason. Okay, but thank you, Lee. That was fantastic. Any other questions or comments? In fact, I actually have the answers down here at the bottom. So let me just blow them up for you, just so you can see kind of what we're doing here. And so a perfect textbook answer would look like that. So can you see how we were given, we were giving reasons as we made those deductions. And so a question like this might be worth as much as 4 or 5 marks. So I just want to reinforce, we do add reasons whenever we get our facts there. Okay, let's try one more. I want you guys, I think this is going to be the last question we're going to do for today. Can you find the area of quadrilateral ABCD? Now, quadrilateral ABCD is this one over here. So let's finish with that today. And we'll give you a minute or two just to get started. And then I'd love someone to come online and help us with some of the little steps. But let's fly solo for about a minute and see how far we get. You've done incredibly well. Let's finish on a high here. I mean, this is, I've cranked it up now. Like your brain is having to work. Okay, who would like to help us with an intermediate step? It feels like this question has lots of steps, and I want to know, can somebody help us kind of get the show on the road? Maybe you can give us some hints. That would be super helpful. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Siyabonga. And Siyabonga, I don't know why, are you with us, Siyabonga?
Hello, sir.
Hey, what do you think we need to do first?
I think we need to find the area for triangle ADB, and then find the area for BDC, and then plus those two areas, and then
Together.
maybe get the answer.
Okay. So I'm just thinking this question, we may need some other maths that I haven't covered with you yet, but I agree, we can definitely find the area of triangle ADB. And so that would be a good place to start with. Now, what we would really like, you know what, guys, I've just realized I've given you a question that you actually haven't got all the tools to solve yet. But what I'm going to show you is, wouldn't it be nice if we had this tool and we'll go from there? So just give me the area of triangle ADB first, and we should get a half times 7 times 11 times the sine of 110. And so what do we get for that? So you should get 36.18 centimeters squared. Now, what I've realized during this question is that unless you can figure out, I mean, you've got this angle down here, which is 40, right? And you've got this side over here called 16. What we don't have is this red side over here. And so the reality is, unless you have more tools in your toolkit, you won't be able to finish this question yet, because the second part of the question is to figure out the area of this triangle here. But in order to figure out what that area is, you need to know the red line. The good news is, next week in our lessons, we are going to learn about something called the cos rule. And the cos rule would help us figure out what BD is. But because we haven't done that yet, I just want to sort of leave it as a taster and go, can you see how if we found the red side, we would be able to solve this problem? So give me a thumbs up if you can see that if I managed to solve for the red side, I would be able to find the area of the whole thing. So give us a thumbs up if you can see that. Give us a thumbs down if you can't see why the red side is important. Okay.